Hi everyone, we're here with 5-4 Work Together, and what we're going to be doing is preparing a petty cash report, and then we're also going to take the information from that report to journalize the transactions for expenses and things like that that we had during that petty cash cycle. The directions tell us to prepare a petty cash report for November 30th of the current year using the following information. Amount in the fund, $200. So what they're telling us there is that we like to keep $200 in our petty cash fund. We have petty cash slips that support payments of $24 for postage expense and $20 for miscellaneous expense. So you add those two up and we have $44 in expenses supported by receipts. However, the actual amount of cash in the petty cash box is $154. So we have $46 that's supported, so it would take us to $156, but when we actually go and count up the money, we have $154 in there. So we have a bit of a discrepancy, and we need to work through that on our reconciliation. We're to use November 30th of the current year as the date, enter student signature in cells where you would enter the custodian signature, which you are the custodian of this account for these assignments. So the date we're going to enter is November 30th. We're going to enter student signature. The fund total, reconciliation. Again, the fund total, they told me that I like to keep $200 in my account. So I'm going to write $200. Then my payments. What do I have receipts for? My petty cash slip supports a payment for $24 to postage expense and $20 for miscellaneous expense. So postage, $20. I'm sorry, $24. Sorry about that. And then miscellaneous expense, $20. Okay, we're going to go and take these two total payments and add those together, $44. We have receipts that support $44 in payments out of our petty cash. Therefore, our recorded amount on hand, what we're saying on paper, not actually what we count up and have, but on paper, what we're saying we should have is $156. We're saying that's what should be in the box. We go to count this cash up, and we only have, as they told us, $154 on hand. So we have a discrepancy of $2. There's $2 that we don't have receipts for. So we are short $2. Okay? And again, anytime we're short, we have to make note of that. If we're over, we have to make note of that as well. And that's all considered in an account called cash short and over in our expenses. So we're going to move our $2 over here. We're going to add the two up. $46 is what we'll need to replenish to get our account back up to $200. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. On the next step, in our question assets, we're given a few items, and I'm going to make this larger for just a moment. So we're given our petty cash report, which we just prepared on the last step. We're given two transactions that they want us to journalize, and then we're given our chart of accounts. If we look at these two transactions, what they're asking us to journalize, they want us to journalize the transactions related to the petty cash completed during November of the current year. Use page 22 of the journal. The abbreviation for check is C. On November 1st, it says that we paid cash to establish a petty cash fund, $200, check 64. Now that's something to really pay attention to when it comes to journalizing. Are we establishing or are we replenishing? Because we journalize the two differently. So since we're establishing, what we're going to do is we're going to type in the date. Oops, I'm sorry about that. November 1st. Now, petty cash, we talked about in class that petty cash is an asset account. To show an increase to petty cash, we're going to debit it to show that increase. So here we're putting money into the fund, and therefore that account is increasing. Okay, so that petty cash is increasing. We paid cash out of our account, cash checking account, to establish this fund. So that is decreasing. So we're going to go ahead and type petty cash will be the account that's affected by a debit. So we're going to debit petty cash $200. And we're going to credit cash $200. Again, our petty cash just increased by $200 because we're establishing it. But our cash just decreased by $200. Again, we still have that $200 as part of our company money. It's just in a different fund now. And that was check 64. Okay, the next example, or the next transaction, is on November 30th, we paid cash to replenish the petty cash fund, $46. Now, a lot of you want to go and just debit petty cash and show that increase, and credit cash and show that decrease. But what we need to do here is we actually need to account for the expenses that were affected with our petty cash expenses. So let's go ahead and fill in the date, and let's look back to our petty cash report. So the first expense that I see is postage expense. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to debit postage expense, and I'll debit it $24. Now the next expense that I see is miscellaneous expense. So I'm going to take miscellaneous expense, and I'm going to debit that $20. Now, you're seeing, yes, this is taking place in the same transaction. You guys are used to only one debit and only one credit per transaction. Here's a little exception. What we're going to do is we're going to have a few debits because we're listing all of our expenses, and then what we're going to make sure is that our debits, when we add them all up, equal our one credit that we're going to be doing. Now we look through to see if we have any other expenses, and the other expense that we have is to this cash short and over, which is our new expense account. And we have an expense of $2. So we're going to write our cash short and over, which again, cash short and over is just one account. It's not cash short and cash over. It's just one single account. Now, with this cash short and over, if I am cash short, which I was in this situation, I debit. If I'm cash over, I credit. So I'm going to go ahead for cash short, $2. I'm going to take these three items, 24 plus 20 plus 2, 46, gets me 46 here as well. Those match up, which is good. Now, I need to figure out what I'm going to credit. Again, I'll be using cash to replenish my petty cash fund. So that's taking away from my cash. And the cash that I need to pay, I already established in my petty cash report, and I've also established it here, that I need $46 to replenish. Now the last thing I need to fill in is my source document. They tell me I wrote check 86 to do this. C86. And please go ahead and go on and do the on your own.